today is Siddhesh Hirlekar, a test automation consultant who excels in creating efficient testing processes. Hi, how are you?
Hey, hi Janhvi.
First of all, I would like to know what is it that you do and what role do you play?
Okay, so I primarily play a role of a test automation engineer. But as part of the role, as you rightly mentioned, test automation consultation is part of that because we are always working on different projects and assessing what exactly is the level of automation that they have and what exactly that they should be targeting to achieve the more efficient ways of testing. So that is something that any test automation engineer would always be doing. Usually you work with project teams, working on different technologies, working with the developers to understand what is the underlying technology and what is the specific need for that particular project or that particular product to to the test automation and automate the testing processes to bring in more efficiency.
Okay. So, what events take place throughout your day? Can you walk us through your day?
Yeah, so a typical day, it depends on the kind of phase of the test automation life cycle that I'm working on. So if I'm into consulting for the new application which is being worked on, then typically it is about assessing various frameworks, understanding what exactly are the requirement, and assessing against the existing available framework in the market to figure out what exactly best suits the requirement, and also identifying the redundancies. So it's all about designing the solution for the test automation. So you got to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve, what exactly is the redundant testing process that you're trying to automate, and then figure out what exactly is the tool that suits the need. If it comes to test automation, there are various life cycles. Sometimes you're doing things very much on the left of the overall time frame, where you're doing as much as testing, covering it at a granular level through unit tests. At times, there are project requirements where you are using some testing tools which emulate the user behaviors, and then also there are some robotic process automation tools which do automation of the existing processes or business processes. So all of these play a vital role in automating any process. So that is something that we usually end up doing. Based on the project, we choose what exactly is that you would be focusing on for delivering the solution.
How do you choose and create effective test automation strategies?
Okay, so the way to choose the effective test automation strategy, to first of all understand the software that you are going to test it. So at the end of the day, a test automation engineer, what he has to figure out is what exactly is the testing need of the software that is being tested. I'll give an example. If you're doing a testing for an application which doesn't have any interface, it is just having some microservices, then devising test cases that will only test those services for different kinds of data is a best suited approach. But if you are doing something at the very much from the end user's perspective, where you are trying to emulate a user flow, you are trying to figure out how an end user interacts with the software, and then while carrying out that particular desired functionalities or the features that are provided by the softwares, how he will be interacting and how the software will be behaving. Then you will go for a different tool, and then based on that tool, a framework will eventually derive, because you would be taking at times an approach, something which is API, which probably at times going to be a lot more data heavy, where you are going to have a different kinds of data combinations to do the testing, and you want your framework to be able to cater to data and how your software or your APIs respond to that different kinds of data combinations, just to ensure that you're covering all the behavior patterns. And if it is from the user's perspective, then you're always going to do it from the user behavior with the application. So
Okay.
it all depends on what kind of testing that you're carrying out.
So there are so many different tools that are available for test automation right now. How do you choose the right tool for a particular project?
Okay, so that's an interesting question actually. So choosing the right tool at times is driven by the, as I mentioned, by the underlying technology of the application. So there are some technologies which are better suited with for certain tools. So if I'm going for something like an Angular kind of an application, then there are different sets of tools that help the life easy, that make it much easier to interact with some of the controls from the UI perspective. If you're going for let's say a very old school mainframe based application, then there are different approaches, there are different kinds of macros based tools that we deploy. So it all depends on the software that is being tested, and
Okay.
that drives what exactly is the best suited tooling that you would be choosing. The second part is the framework part, which is also something which is framework is it's the most essential part of any test automation solution. The reason for that is a wrong framework will end up too much of an effort being spent into maintenance of your code. And at the end of the day, one has to always realize, remember that test automation project, at the end of the day, it's just another piece of working software. So someone has to maintain that also.
Okay.
So when you are deploying any such solutions, you always think from how to maintain it more effectively with least amount of effort. How I can maintain, that's the most important. And the second aspect is how effectively you can turn it around. So the amount of time that you're going to, if there is a solution that is already available in the market, there is already an available solution, let's say a keyword driven framework, adapting to that becomes much easier, because most of the heavy lifting of how your code is going to interact with your software will be done by the framework. And you don't have to do all of that. So unless there is a specific need of your particular requirement of your specific software, um, uh, reinventing wheel is never a good idea. So that is where it is always important to understand, and it all comes with the experience, that what is the right tool to apply.
So you highlighted how important the framework is. How do you design and implement a framework?
Again, an excellent question. So if you want to design any framework, you always go one step back. It comes down to a question that you would be asking to you as a either you are going to ask it yourself as a tester, or you're going to ask any person who is writing any tester or a test analyst who is going to test that application. What exactly are your needs? Are you going to do it on one device? Are you going to do it on multiple devices? Are you going to go do you have multiple environments where the same set of test cases are going to get executed? Are you going to do it from your development, testing, production, everywhere? Are you going to use the same thing? Accordingly, you need to go for a tools, or you have to go for the framework that will cater to these needs. So it all gets driven from the requirement of what is being tested, and what is the at what stage of your overall testing life cycle you are in. Based on that, you choose the right tool and right framework.
What challenges do you come across, and how do you solve them?
The most important challenge, I would say, is having this awareness, as I mentioned, that at the end of the day, a test automation project is also a project. It's a working piece of code. So whenever we are planning any of the resourcing activities, you need to educate the team, and the entire team or a product team has to understand the need of this particular test automation. Because at the end of the day, as your piece of software is going to evolve, the testing the framework around it also has to evolve. It has to keep pace with the changing requirements. And it also needs to be we also need to be ensuring that this particular piece of code is also maintained within the limited amount of time that is available, so that we have a good amount of return on investment.
Okay.
So the most important challenge that we face is to educate teams that okay, how exactly to calculate this return on investment and what is the right amount of investment to put in. That education is something that is a challenge. On the technology front, there are many, but we have over the time testing frameworks are becoming a lot more mature. So the challenges are there are different kinds of challenges that currently the industry faces, but the technological challenges is one aspect. The other aspect, as I mentioned, is the resourcing challenges, that
Okay.
to understand what is the amount of investment that I should be doing into this particular test automation so that I get the right amount of benefit. I do not want to create a piece of code which becomes useful for 2 times or 3 times in a year, and for which I'm maintaining some amount of human resource just to maintain that piece, which is not really going to yield any benefit. At the same time, I do not want to, just because it is not going to be you do not have the enough investments to make towards that, to make it as a low priority and let's do it later. That kind of attitude also doesn't work. So you have to find the right sweet spot of what is the amount of automation that we are going to do, where exactly we are going to put the investments so that we get the immediate benefits, and how to keep it robust enough that you spend less time in maintaining it and more time in enhancing it. That's the most
Okay.
important aspect.
So I understand that maintaining is very important.
Hmm.
How do you build a software that is reliable and easy to maintain?
And the most important is the test automation under it, because if you're going to create any code, you got to have a thought process of making that code self-tested, so that when you're building something, you know as much as possible, as part of the building process, if you're able to also test it against something, it is going to be beneficial from. So whenever they are going to you're going to make the changes, your test cases are going to get fail right away, and you get the feedback early. The entire mantra of going to the left, shifting left from the overall life cycle of a product, is that you fail early, and to fail early you need your test cases that are, you're not relying on some other person to create it for you. When you are building the software, you already have automated test cases. If you are enhancing something, the test cases start failing right away, and you get the feedback early, you fix it early, and then you promote your application with a more stable version into a newer environment in a shortest span of time.
Okay.
So that reliability only builds with a higher amount of test automation and right amount of test automation.
Okay. What are some of the new trends you're seeing in automation right now, and how do you keep up with them?
Okay, keeping up is primarily internet, but the most important trend, and which has been a very much a buzzword, which is artificial intelligence, and as it is touching all facets of software automation, software development, it definitely touches the same. Testing automation also, it touches that. So we now are in a situation where an AI or a generative tool is able to at least give you some part of working code. If you're going to tell him that okay, now give me test cases also to test the same code, he's definitely going to give that. Now, as an automation engineer, I still should be relevant enough to figure out what exactly from that set of code is good enough that will find the I would say that will find the bugs. That is something that is going to be more important. So what is more important from the changing trends is to understand how these AI and ML models are giving more feedback, and how to, from all that chaos that is there, how to find the relevant feedback and put it back into your piece of code that you're going to create, the piece of test cases that you're going to create, so that you will ensure that your test case is also self-healing. Your software is self-healing. That is the step towards that, right? That you need a piece of code which is self-healing. If it is making some changes, it needs to figure out if at all it is breaking any other functionality because of the changes that are doing. It should be intelligent enough to fix it itself. That is the ultimate aim that everyone is going towards. But it's a smaller process. The AI is definitely pushing all the humans to achieve that early. And hopefully with that we will, if as an automation engineer, if you're not really coping up with that particular changing trends, then definitely you're lagging somewhere behind. So that is something that is more important.
Wow, okay. Do you have any advice or tips you would like to give someone who's entering this industry?
Yeah. So as I always tell to any of the newly joiners that, okay, the most important quality that I always look for test automation engineers is how lazy they are. And it will sound very funny, but why? Because if you're lazy, you're always bored to do smaller menial tasks which you have to keep on doing again and again. So you will find some way to get this thing faster. And any automation engineer is always working towards that okay, there is some task that I'm doing, maybe I can find a script. There are many ways with which these efficiencies creep in, and if you do not have that inbuilt thought process of improving this redundant task that I'm doing, you will not find the opportunities to automate activities.
Okay.
So it's not only about picking up a test case, figuring it out, okay, I'll write some code to automate that particular test case. It's more about going through the test cases and figure out where exactly are the redundancies. Maybe I may not be able to automate everything, but if I automate these three pieces in between using some scripts, using some smaller piece of code, that will give me much quicker benefits. And if an effective automation engineer needs to improve, he has to keep always on the lookout that, okay, I'm doing this process, but probably there is something that I can create from scratch. I don't have to spend too much of an effort because most of the time, all of these tasks are throwaway efforts at times. But if you do not have that mindset, you will not be able to applying it in your day-to-day work, and you're not going to get the benefits. So I would definitely say that when I say lazy, it comes with a mindset that, okay, I'm not ready to keep on doing this because I can instruct a software to do it for me. And that's where the laziness comes in, that, okay, I will create something that the software will do it for me, and I don't have to spend my energy towards that. I can probably be doing something which is more fruitful, which is something that is going to be more productive, which requires a human intelligence and not really a machine intelligence.
Wow, okay. Do you have any final notes or key takeaways?
Yeah, I think stay hungry. It's important to keep up with all of these changing trends. You have to, and I think for anybody who is entering into this industry, the most important aspect that you have to understand is everyone has to compete with a machine who is capable not as much as a human, but to a certain extent he is going to be much better at solving some of the problems.
Okay.
It's just that it still doesn't know what problems to solve. That is something that as an engineer who is going into this industry has to understand that, okay, I am the one who is going to interact with this particular machine and get the best out of it. And we, at the end of the day, because we are the ones who have the human experience. When it comes to the automation, I always say that we as an end user know how a software works, and we face the problems. We give the relevant feedback to make that software intelligent. Probably a machine may not be, because he will never have an understanding how a human might be looking at a problem. And we should be able to definitely keep an eye on finding these requirements as a human, how I can improve this entire thing, how I can automate the process, how I can automate the way we interact with the software, so that I get more improved versions earlier, faster. And that efficiency is the only thing that everyone is thriving for.
Wow, that was very enlightening and insightful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Janhvi. Good luck.
Thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. Do like and subscribe.